Hello everyone, this presentation focuses on my Understanding Diversity project. My name is Travis Steer, and today for this project I explored cultural diversity in remote work environments, specifically looking at how communication, collaboration, and inclusion are impacted across diverse teams. This topic is important because remote work is becoming more common and organizations are relying on people from different backgrounds to work together effectively without being in the same physical space. In this presentation, I'll walk you through my background and positionality, explain my topic, highlight key resources I use, and then go over the major takeaways that change how I think about diversity and learning. My perspective comes from several key points of my identity and experience. First, I'm a Navy veteran of 10 years, and that experience shaped how I approach leadership, teamwork, and accountability. In the military, structure and discipline are extremely important, and I've carried those values into my professional life. I currently work in instructional design, where I focus on creating training and learning experiences. That means I'm responsible for making sure information is clear, effective, and engaging for different types of learners. I'm also a husband and a father that has changed how I think about fairness, opportunity, and long-term impact. It's made me more aware of how systems affect people differently. Lastly, I come from a Midwest background, where values like hard work, humility, and community were emphasized. On to the next slide, my positionality. My positionality is shaped by intersection of my experiences, identity, and professional role. Because of my military background, I tend to approach problems with a leadership mindset and a focus on structure, organization, and efficiency. I naturally look for clear systems and processes. At the same time, I recognize that my identity as a white male comes with certain advantages that others may not have. This is something I didn't always fully think about before this course, but it's something I'm much more aware of now. One of the biggest things I've learned is that bias isn't always intentional. It can exist within systems, expectations, and norms that seem normal, but actually impact people differently. These overlapping factors, such as my military experience, my identity, and my professional role, all influence in how I see the world and how I design learning experiences. So for my topic focuses on cultural diversity in remote work environments. More specifically, I looked at how communication, collaboration, and inclusion are affected when people from different backgrounds work together in digital spaces. Remote work creates unique challenges that people are not physically together. So communication relies heavily on technology like messaging, video calls, and written communication. What I found is that differences in culture, communication style, and experience can lead to misunderstandings, lack of engagement, or even exclusion if they are not addressed properly. I chose this topic because it directly connects to my future career in instructional design. I will be designing training for people working in these types of environments, so I need to understand how diversity impacts learning and performance. To which, my current role, I do design training for Navy training courses. So why this matters to me is that the topic matters to me because it directly impacts the work I will be doing in my career. As an instructional designer, I will be responsible for creating training programs that are used by people from different backgrounds, cultures, and experiences. If I design training without considering diversity, it could unintentionally exclude certain learners or make it harder for them to succeed. I also believe that diverse perspectives actually make teams stronger. When people bring different ideas and experiences, it leads to better problem solving and more effective outcomes. Because of that, I see it as my responsibility to create learning experiences that are not only effective, but also equitable and inclusive for everyone. So for my resource one, the first resource I used was a Harvard Business Review and focuses on how to collaborate effectively in remote teams. This resource explains that remote teams often struggle with communication, trust, and engagement because people are not interacting face to face. From an intersectionality perspective, these challenges are influenced by differences in culture, communication style, professional background, and even access to technology. For example, some cultures are more direct in communication while others are more indirect, which can lead to misunderstandings in a remote setting. In terms of application, this resource showed me that training needs to include clear communications expectations, structured collaboration strategies, and opportunities for team interaction. As a designer, I can use this by creating training scenarios that simulate real-world communication challenges and help learners practice working in diverse teams. The second resource is the culture map, which focuses on how cultural differences impact communication in global teams. This resource highlights that people interpret communication differently based on their cultural background, including how they give feedback, express disagreement, and build relationships. Intersectionality is important here because communication is influenced by multiple factors, including culture, identity, and professional experience. One takeaway is misunderstandings are not always due to poor communication, but rather than differences in how communication is interpreted. In application, this means that training should help learners recognize these differences and adapt their communication style when working with others. For me, this reinforced the importance of designing training that builds awareness and flexibility in communication. Resource number 3, the third resource is TED Talk, The Danger of a Single Story. This explains how people form assumptions about others when they only hear one perspective or narrative. It shows how stereotypes develop when we don't take the time to understand the full complexity of people's experiences. From an intersectionality perspective, this connects to race, culture, and lived experience, and how these factors shape how people are perceived and treated. One of the biggest takeaways is that limiting people to a single story removes their individuality and complexity. In application, this means that training should include diverse perspectives and encourage learners to reflect on their own assumptions. As an ISD, I can use this by incorporating scenarios and examples that represent a wide range of experiences. So, big takeaways. The biggest takeaway from this project is that diversity is much deeper than visible differences. It includes people's backgrounds, experiences, perspectives, and ways of thinking. I also learned that bias is often hidden in systems behaviors, not just as individuals. This is a major shift in my thinking. Before I thought of a bias more as something personal, but now I understand how it can be built into processes and expectations. Finally, I learned that training and education must be intentional, inclusive, and equitable. If we are not intentional, we risk creating environments that unintentionally exclude people. Moving forward, I will focus on designing learning experiences that remove barriers and support all learners, regardless of their background. This is a full list of resources used in my project. Each of these sources contributed to understanding of diversity, communication, and inclusion of both education and workplace. They provide a theoretical perspectives and real-world applications that help me connect what I learned in this course to the future of my career. Overall, these resources help me build a more complete understanding of how to create inclusive and effective learning environments. Again, I want to say thank you for everyone in the EDU 302 class. I hope you all have a great and wonderful day. Thank you.